Just over a year ago, former Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu signed the famous Abraham Accords without consulting any of his cabinet ministers. Now, despite the landmark peace that came with it, many felt that he was hiding the true price that Israel had to pay for the deal. And now that that price has become public, Israel is under fire. Our correspondent Jonathan Regev has the story.
It was one of the happiest moments of 2020. The signing of the Abraham Accords brought peace between Israel and more Arab countries. Peace for peace, it was called at the time, but soon enough it became clear that Israel is paying a price. At first, reports suggested Israel accepted the sale of advanced American F-35 fighter jets to the UAE, thus giving up its qualitative military edge. Then came the reports of a pipeline on Israeli territory from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean, meant to transfer Emirati oil to Europe. For some in Israel, it was an alarming wake-up call.
We are, of course, very happy with the geopolitical status with the Arab countries in our area, but we don't think that it has to come with the super specific risks to our environment.
The idea is for Emirati oil carriers to arrive at Eilat and then use the existing but mostly unused pipeline to Ashkelon on the Mediterranean coast and then onto Europe.
In case the Israeli government decide not to let the Emirati use the Katza line, the way it will affect the peace agreement, I don't think it will be any major effect on it. The Abraham Accord, it's much stronger than the issue with using the katza line to transfer oil. The Emirati government are very sensitive and understanding about what's happening in the Israeli politics, and also there's a lot of common sense on the current situation with the katza line, so eventually they will understand the major issue and the concern about some of the agencies in Israel about using the katza line.
Israeli environmentalists, still alarmed by these images seen on Israel's shores earlier this year due to an oil spill in the Mediterranean and another oil spill from a pipeline next to Eilat a few years ago, are concerned of similar incidents due to the large volume of oil tankers expected to arrive at the port of Eilat.
The risks are actually pretty simple. Even 1% of a spill from an oil tanker will arrive to the Eilat coral reef and can and possibly will damage it in a way that may be irreversible.
These voices are echoing not only in Israel but also in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and other solutions are now already being looked for.
Eventually, they already spoke with the Egyptian using or building a pipeline through Saudi Arabia to Egypt. So they're always going to look for other alternatives.
The oil from the Emirates will eventually go through. It is leaving some sour taste in this new relationship, but the official voices in the Emirates describe this as an internal Israeli matter that should not have an impact on the bilateral relations.
Of course, it was some important issue on this and using this, but it will not come to a position when you eventually canceling the agreement or will be any political or diplomatic holdback because of this.
Money, oil, environment and diplomacy all combine to create yet another Middle Eastern saga.
In general, I think all the situation actually brought a new opportunity to Israel. If the Israeli government will be smart enough to present the situation to the Emiratis, and also to the Saudis about the current position of Katza line and the problem that it caused, I think it will be a great opportunity to rebuild this line, and not only to rebuild the line with a new line, but actually to involve all the GCC countries, which in this case, if we build a distribution terminal in Saudi Arabia, through Jordan to Israel to Ashkelon, this opportunity can create completely new structure that can be involved with Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Emirates, Oman, and Saudi Arabia, to push oil through this line, through Israel to Europe, which in this case will create an amazing opportunity for all the parties involved. Such a pipeline will reduce more than 40% the usage of the oil vessel from the Gulf of Oman through the ocean to Europe by using those pipes from Saudi Arabia to Israel directly and from Israel to Europe. So eventually I think it's create an amazing business opportunity to rebuild the katza line on this prospective possibility to create completely new structure, which eventually will use new technology and secure the safety of the environment. And by this to solve the problem, also it will create a major interest to the GCC countries and allow them to use those structure to push oil to Europe.